Primal Leadership, Realizing the Power of Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, Richard Boyatzis, and Annie McKee. Picture this, 200 journalists and editors packed into a room at the BBC. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. They've poured everything into an experimental news division, but it hasn't worked out. Management is pulling the plug. An executive walks in to break the news. But instead of getting straight to the point, he starts rambling about how great the other divisions are doing. Then he mentions some wonderful trip he just took to Cannes. And then, almost like he just remembered, he drops the bomb. They're all losing their jobs. The room explodes. People aren't just disappointed about losing their jobs. They're furious about the cold, dismissive way this guy delivered the news. The atmosphere turns so hostile that it looks like he might actually need security to escort him out. Here's the fascinating part. The very next day, a different executive comes to speak to the same group of people. He takes a completely different approach. He doesn't talk about profits or business metrics. Instead, he speaks from the heart. He talks about why journalism matters, about the calling that drew each of them to this profession in the first place. He reminds them that nobody becomes a journalist to get rich. It's about passion, about making a difference. He acknowledges their dedication and wishes them well in whatever comes next. When he finishes speaking, something remarkable happens. The staff cheers for him. Two leaders, the same terrible news, completely opposite reactions. The difference wasn't strategy or vision in the traditional sense. It was something far more fundamental, something primal. This is the central insight of one of the most influential leadership books ever written. Daniel Goleman and his colleagues Richard Boyatzis and Annie McKee wrote Primal Leadership to reveal what they discovered. The true engine of leadership isn't spreadsheets or strategic plans. It's emotion. The most important job of any leader is managing the emotional state of their people, creating what they call resonance. For years we've been taught that emotions are the enemy of good business decisions. They're noise, a distraction from logical thinking. But Goleman, who spent years as a psychologist reporting on brain science for the New York Times, shows us that this is completely backwards. It misunderstands how humans are actually wired. Today, we're going on a journey into the heart of this idea. We'll explore why a leader's mood is contagious, how the best leaders act as emotional guides, and how you can master the tools of emotional intelligence. By the end, you'll understand this hidden language of leadership, the one that speaks not to the head, but to the heart. And you'll see how you can start using it right now in your own life, whether you're leading a company, a school club, or just yourself. This is the story of primal leadership. Great leaders move us. They light a fire in us and inspire us to do our best work. But how do they do it? Most people will tell you it's about brilliant strategy or a powerful vision. Those things definitely matter. But the authors of Primal Leadership argue that the real answer is simpler and deeper. Great leadership works through emotions. This is what they mean by primal leadership. The word primal has two meanings here. First, it means original. This is the oldest form of leadership, going back to our earliest ancestors. Second, it means most important. This is the foundation that everything else is built on. Think about it. Throughout all of human history, the leader has been the person everyone looks to for reassurance and clarity. When we face uncertainty or danger, or when there's something important to accomplish, we look to the leader to be our emotional guide. Their mood, their tone, their energy, all of it sets the emotional standard for everyone else. The reason goes back to how our brains are designed. Scientists talk about something called the open-loop limbic system. That sounds complicated, but the idea is beautifully simple. Your circulatory system is a closed loop. What happens in someone else's heart doesn't directly affect yours. But your emotional centers work differently. They're an open loop, which means we depend on connections with other people to manage our emotional state. We're literally wired to help each other emotionally. It's why a mother can soothe a crying baby, or why a friend's comforting presence can actually lower your blood pressure. Our emotions leak out beyond us. Just like you can catch a cold from someone, you can catch their feelings. Scientists have measured this in labs. When two people have a simple 15-minute conversation, by the end, their heart rates and breathing patterns start to look remarkably similar. They call this mirroring. This emotional contagion is happening constantly. In any group, there's a kind of emotional soup being created, with everyone adding their own ingredient. But the leader adds the strongest flavor. Why? Because everyone watches the boss. People take their emotional cues from the top. A leader's mood, whether it's upbeat and enthusiastic or irritable and anxious, ripples outward through the entire organization. When a leader drives emotions in a positive direction, they create what the authors call resonance. A resonant leader is in tune with how their people are feeling. They create a reservoir of positivity that brings out the best in everyone. Think back to that second BBC executive. He didn't pretend the bad news wasn't bad, but he connected with the staff's passion for their work and left them feeling understood and even inspired. That's resonance. On the flip side, when a leader drives emotions negatively, they create dissonance. A dissonant leader is out of tune. They're either oblivious or indifferent to how others feel. The first BBC executive, talking about his vacation to Cannes while firing people, was a textbook example. He created hostility and undermined the emotional foundation that helps people do their best work. So the primal job of leadership is emotional. And the key to mastering this lies in what Daniel Goleman is most famous for: emotional intelligence, or EI for short. Emotional intelligence isn't about being nice all the time. It's about being smart about emotions. The authors break it down into 4 core areas that build on each other like a pyramid. The foundation is self-awareness. This means having a deep understanding of your own emotions. It's knowing your strengths, your limitations, your values, and what really drives you. A self-aware leader recognizes how their feelings affect them and their performance. Instead of letting anger build into an explosion, they notice it early and figure out what's causing it. Self-awareness is also the source of what we call gut feelings or intuition. The book explains that gut feelings aren't magic. They're your brain drawing on a lifetime of experience, on lessons you've learned without even realizing it. Your emotional centers send a signal that feels right, and that's actually valuable data, just as useful as any spreadsheet. A leader who's out of touch with their own feelings will be cut off from this deep well of wisdom. Building on that foundation is self-management. Once you're aware of your emotions, you can begin to manage them. This frees you from being a prisoner of your feelings. A leader with strong self-management can stay calm under pressure, control their impulses, and channel even difficult emotions in useful ways. Because emotions are so contagious, a leader's first job is emotional hygiene, getting their own feelings under control. You can't effectively manage emotions in anyone else without first handling your own. This self-mastery allows a leader to be a source of calm and confidence, creating an environment of trust. The third area is social awareness. This is where we turn our attention outward. The key skill here is empathy. Empathy doesn't mean adopting other people's emotions as your own or trying to please everyone. That would be exhausting and counterproductive. Rather, it means thoughtfully considering how people are feeling, and then making smart decisions that take those feelings into account. It's about listening, understanding different perspectives, and sensing the unspoken emotions in a room. A leader who lacks empathy will always be off-key, saying and doing things that create dissonance without understanding why. Finally, at the peak of the pyramid, we have relationship management. This is where the first 3 areas come together. It's the visible part of leadership: persuasion, handling conflicts, collaboration, and inspiration. Managing relationships well means skillfully handling other people's emotions. This is where a leader uses their awareness of their own feelings, their ability to manage them, and their empathy for others to move people in the right direction. It's friendliness with a purpose. A leader strong in relationship management can paint a compelling vision that resonates with people's values, build rapport, and find common ground. These 4 areas are the building blocks. But how do they look in action? The authors identified 6 distinct leadership styles. Think of these styles like the set of clubs in a professional golfer's bag. The best leaders don't use just one club for every shot. They sense what the situation requires and instinctively pull out the right tool. 4 of these styles create resonance and boost performance. First is the visionary style. This is probably the most effective overall. A visionary leader moves people toward a shared dream. They explain where the group is heading, but not necessarily exactly how it'll get there. This gives people clarity and purpose, but also freedom to innovate and take risks. They frame even mundane tasks as part of a grander mission. This style is built on the ability to inspire, self-confidence, and empathy. The leader has to genuinely believe in the vision and connect it to what their people care about. This style is especially powerful when a business is drifting or needs a fresh direction. Next is the coaching style. This is the art of the one-on-one conversation. A coaching leader connects what a person wants with what the organization needs. They have deep conversations that go beyond immediate tasks and explore someone's life, their dreams, their career hopes. Leaders use this style the least often, usually saying they don't have time for it, but by skipping it, they miss a powerful opportunity to build loyalty and develop talent. A good coach helps people identify their strengths and weaknesses and links their daily work to their long-term goals. The message is, I believe in you, I'm investing in you, and I expect your best efforts. This style relies heavily on developing others, empathy, and self-awareness. Third is the affiliative style. This leader builds harmony by connecting people to each other. Their motto is, people come first. Think of Joe Torre, the legendary manager of the New York Yankees. He was famous for taking care of his players' emotional well-being, especially during personal struggles. After winning the 1999 World Series, he sought out a player whose father had just died and praised him as a warrior. This style is about creating emotional bonds and building loyalty. It's fantastic for healing rifts in a team, motivating people during stressful times, or repairing broken trust. It's built on empathy, building bonds, and managing conflicts. The fourth resonant style is the democratic leader. This leader builds commitment by getting everyone involved. Their signature phrase is, "What do you think?" The story of Sister Mary is a perfect example. When she was ordered to shut down a failing Catholic school, she didn't just lock the doors. She called meetings with teachers, staff, and parents. She asked for their ideas and really listened. In the end, the consensus was the same. The school had to close. But because the decision was reached together, there was no backlash. People were sad, but they understood. This style is ideal when a leader is uncertain about the best path forward and needs ideas from capable people. It's built on collaboration, team leadership, and communication. Those 4 styles, visionary, coaching, affiliative, and democratic, are the resonance builders. They create a positive emotional climate and drive strong performance. But there are 2 other styles in the bag. These are powerful tools, but they can easily create dissonance if used poorly or too often. They need to be handled carefully. The first is the pacesetting style. The pacesetting leader expects excellence and models it themselves. Their motto is, "Do as I do now." They hold high standards, obsess over doing things better and faster, and ask the same of everyone. This can work extremely well with a team that's already highly motivated and skilled, like a group of star salespeople or expert scientists. But when it's overused, it feels relentless. The pacesetter can be so focused on goals that they seem not to care about the people doing the work. They often expect everyone to just know what to do, which leaves people feeling overwhelmed and micromanaged. Morale tanks. Sam, the brilliant biochemist who became a star researcher, was a natural pacesetter. It worked when he led a small team of equally driven scientists. But when he was promoted to head the entire research division, his style backfired. He became obsessed with details and couldn't trust his team. The pace-setting style can get short-term results, but it often burns people out. Finally, there's the commanding style. This is classic military leadership. The motto is, "Do what I tell you." This leader demands immediate compliance, doesn't explain their reasoning, and uses threats to motivate. Of all the styles, this is the least effective in most situations. It crushes morale, kills innovation, and makes people feel disrespected. It's a recipe for dissonance. However, it does have its place. In a genuine crisis, like a fire, a hostile takeover, or an urgent turnaround, a leader who can take firm control can be invaluable. It can also work with a problem employee after everything else has failed. But if this is the only tool a leader uses, they'll leave destruction in their wake. This raises an interesting question that the authors call the jerk paradox. We all know of some rude, hard-hitting, seemingly dissonant leader who appears to get great business results. If emotional intelligence is so important, how do we explain them? The authors offer a few possibilities. First, is that person actually doing the leading? A harsh CEO of a massive company might be a pacesetter, but the division heads beneath them, using more resonant styles, might be the ones actually leading people and driving results. Second, some success is an illusion. A leader might boost short-term profits through drastic cuts that damage the company's long-term health and drive away top talent. And finally, no leader is perfect. Someone might have a glaring weakness, like lack of empathy, but have so many other strengths in emotional intelligence that they're still effective overall. But the data is clear. Leaders who rely on dissonant styles drive away talent and ultimately underperform. The most effective leaders don't master just one or two styles. They have a flexible toolkit of 4 or more, especially the resonant ones, and they can switch between them smoothly as the situation demands. But how does a leader develop this flexibility? How does a pace-setting control freak learn to become a coach? This is where the book shifts from the what to the how. The journey starts with a major obstacle, especially for people at the top, what they call CEO disease. This is the information vacuum that forms around leaders when people stop giving them honest feedback. Nobody wants to be the messenger who gets shot. The higher you climb, the less truth you hear about your own performance. This is a paradox, because the higher you are, the more you actually need that feedback. This lack of feedback plays into a natural human tendency. We tend to overestimate our own abilities. The poorest performers are often the ones who think they're the best. So a leader can be completely out of touch with how others perceive them. Like Bill, the HR manager who saw himself as the go-to guy while his colleagues secretly avoided him. Many people believe that by a certain age, your leadership style is fixed. You are who you are. But the authors argue passionately that this isn't true. Old dogs can learn new tricks. Emotional intelligence isn't something you're born with. It's something you can develop. The problem with most leadership training is that it targets the wrong part of the brain. Your thinking brain, the neocortex, learns concepts quickly. It can learn a computer program from a manual. But leadership skills aren't just concepts. They're habits, rooted deep in your emotional brain, the limbic system. And the emotional brain is a much slower learner. To change a habit, you have to overwrite years of repeated neural pathways. This requires a different approach, what the authors call self-directed learning. This is a process built around 5 discoveries. The first discovery is your ideal self. This is the most powerful step. Who do you want to be? This isn't about who you think you ought to be, based on what your parents or your boss expects. This is about connecting with your own dreams, your own values, your own vision for your life. This ideal self is the fuel for change. It provides the passion and hope needed to do the hard work of breaking old habits. Without a compelling vision of who you want to become, any effort to change will eventually fizzle out. The second discovery is your real self. This is like looking in a brutally honest mirror. Who are you right now? How do others actually see you? This is where you have to fight against CEO disease and actively seek candid feedback, especially from people who see you every day. A 360-degree evaluation, where you get confidential feedback from your boss, peers, and people who report to you, is an incredibly powerful tool. This process helps you identify your strengths, where your real self matches your ideal self, and your gaps, where they don't. The third discovery is creating your learning agenda. This is your roadmap for change. A good learning plan isn't about fixing all your weaknesses. It's about building on your strengths to help close your gaps. It should be made of concrete, manageable steps that fit into your real life. And it has to be your plan, driven by your ideal self, not goals someone else imposed on you. Juan, a marketing executive, wanted to develop his empathy and coaching skills. His learning plan wasn't just about work. He decided to coach his daughter's soccer team and volunteer at a crisis center. This gave him more chances to practice in different settings. The fourth discovery is experimenting and practicing new behaviors until they become automatic. This is the hard work. Changing a deeply ingrained habit feels weird at first. You have to consciously practice a better way, over and over again. Mental rehearsal can be incredibly powerful here. By vividly imagining yourself handling a situation in a new way, like Jack, the pace setter, rehearsing how he would listen patiently instead of jumping in with solutions, you start firing new neural pathways in your brain before you even act. You practice until the new habit becomes your brain's default setting. Finally, the fifth discovery is the power of relationships. You can't do this alone. Change happens through our connections with other people. We need others to help us see our real self, to give us feedback, to support us when we struggle, and to provide a safe space to experiment with new behaviors. This might be a trusted mentor, an executive coach, or a group of peers on the same journey. These supportive relationships make lasting change possible. This 5-step process can transform an individual leader. But to transform an organization, you need more. You need to create a critical mass of resonant leaders. This means moving beyond individual development and looking at the emotional reality of teams and the entire organization. The authors explain that teams, just like individuals, have emotional intelligence. A team can be self-aware, sensing its own moods. It can manage itself, establishing healthy norms for handling conflict. It can be empathetic, building good relationships with other groups. The leader's job is to foster this group emotional intelligence, monitor the emotional tone, and help the team face reality while moving toward its ideal. Ultimately, building an emotionally intelligent organization means weaving these principles into the very fabric of the company. It means hiring and promoting people based on emotional intelligence competencies. It means creating a culture that values transparency, integrity, and empathy. And it means having leaders at the top who don't just support this but embody it. In a world of constant, accelerating change, the authors conclude that primal leadership is more crucial than ever. Strategies and business models will become outdated, but the ability to manage emotions, your own and others, to stay flexible under pressure, to inspire people around a shared purpose, and to create the human synergy of a group working in harmony, that's the timeless art of leadership. It's the art of creating resonance. What a journey! When you first encounter these ideas, it feels like someone just turned on a light in a room you didn't even know was dark. We spend so much time focusing on the what of leadership, the strategies, the numbers, the goals, that we completely miss the how. And the how, as Goleman and his colleagues so brilliantly show, is almost entirely emotional. The most powerful lesson for me, and I think for anyone who encounters this book, is the concept of resonance. It's such a simple yet profound idea that a leader's fundamental job is to create good feelings in the people they lead. It completely reframes leadership from an act of command to an act of connection. It reminds us that at the end of the day, organizations are just collections of human beings, and we're emotional creatures. What I find so beautiful about this book is how it takes this idea, which could feel soft or vague, and grounds it in both hard science and practical application. The discussion of the open-loop limbic system isn't just an interesting fact. It's the scientific explanation for why a leader's mood is so powerful. It's the why behind what we've all experienced when working for an inspiring boss who lifts everyone up, or a toxic one who drains the life out of a room. And for anyone just starting their journey, this framework is invaluable. You may not be a CEO, but you're already a leader in some capacity. You lead when you're the captain of a sports team. You lead when you're organizing a group project for school. You lead when you're trying to influence your friends to make good choices. In every one of those situations, these principles apply. Are you creating resonance or dissonance? Are you aware of your own emotional state? Are you empathetic to what others are feeling? The book challenges the old Stoic image of the leader as an unfeeling, rational machine. It gives us permission to be human. It tells us that our feelings, our intuition, our ability to connect with others, these aren't weaknesses to suppress, but strengths to cultivate. So how can you start applying these powerful lessons today? You don't have to wait for a formal title. Here are 3 simple practices you can begin right now. First, practice emotional self-awareness. Just start paying attention. Throughout your day, check in with yourself. What are you feeling right now? Stressed? Excited? Frustrated? Don't judge it, just name it. Then ask, why? Getting into this habit of noticing and understanding your emotional landscape is the first step on the path to emotional intelligence. Second, practice active empathy. The next time you're in a conversation with someone, make it your primary goal not to be understood, but to understand them. Listen not just to their words, but to the feeling behind them. Watch their body language. Ask questions that show you're trying to see the world from their perspective, like how did that feel for you? This single shift can transform your relationships. And third, become an observer of emotional climates. When you walk into a classroom, a family dinner, or a meeting, take a moment to sense the emotional temperature. Is the mood light and energetic, or tense and heavy? Who seems to be setting that tone? By becoming aware of the emotional currents around you, you'll start to see the powerful, invisible forces of resonance and dissonance at play everywhere. Leadership, in the end, isn't about a position. It's about impact. It's about the ability to move people, to inspire them, and to bring out their very best. It's the most human of all endeavors. And as Primal Leadership so masterfully teaches us, it all begins with the heart. That was a summary of Primal Leadership by Daniel Goleman, Richard Boyatzis, and Annie McKee. We've explored the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It can show you the landmarks, but it can't give you the experience of actually being there. The real magic of this book happens when you read it for yourself. It's in the quiet moments when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with your own life in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've discussed today has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see leadership and how you see yourself. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.